In this video, we're going to cover everything you need to know to understand the Housing Choice Voucher Program, otherwise known as Section 8. So let's jump right in. So before you can invest in Section 8 and take advantage of the major benefits, it's important to understand exactly what Section 8 is. The actual current name of the program is the Housing Choice Voucher Program. You'll hear me use those two things, Section 8 and Housing Choice Voucher, interchangeably. At some point down the line, the name was changed because of the stigma associated with Section 8. Irrespective, in basic terms, what the program is a federally funded program designed to help low-income families, the elderly, and those with disabilities find safe and affordable housing in the private market. The program is funded federally but administered locally, and we'll explain what that means. For reference first, a little bit of history. The Housing Choice Voucher Program was established in 1974 as a part of the Housing and Community Development Act. The initial name of Section 8 came about because that was the actual section of that act that outlined the Housing Choice Voucher Program. Now, over the years, the program has adapted and evolved, but the overall purpose has remained the same, which is to provide safe and affordable housing to those in need. The Housing Choice Voucher Program is a part of the Department of Housing and Urban Development, which is commonly referred to as HUD. HUD is an agency that is a part of the federal government, and that's an important concept to understand. The Housing Choice Voucher Program is funded by federal tax dollars. So the U.S. taxpayers pay taxes to the federal government disperses it amongst the different departments, HUD being one of them. HUD then takes those tax dollars and disperses them locally to what are called housing authorities. And from there, the housing authorities take those funds and administer them as they best see fit, as long as they're within some general guidelines. So the program is funded federally, but administered locally. Housing authorities are usually based on county, but can be any similar type of municipality. For example, here in Central Texas, there's a housing authority that covers several counties in one. For simplicity, you can think of it like a county-like area that will have a housing authority. HUD disperses the funds to each housing authority based on demand and sets guidelines that each housing authority must fall within. As long as the housing authority meets the basic guidelines set by HUD, they have the authority to administer the program however they see fit, based on the needs of their local market. The main takeaway there is that there will be nuances and differences based on the housing authority that you're working with in different areas. Among one of the most important things to understand that's administered locally is what's called FMR, which stands for Fair Market Rent. Each year, HUD comprises a data set of the fair market rents in every zip code in the United States, which are the rent amounts that they deem, based on the data that they've analyzed, to be considered fair for a given area, which includes rents for properties separated by bedroom counts. So HUD will include data for a studio, which they refer to as an efficiency, and then they'll have rents for a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, and 4-bedroom, and in some areas they will even include a 5-bedroom. Now, the property type can be a single-family home, multifamily, a condo, a townhouse. The FMR doesn't account for that aspect, it's just based on the bedroom count. So this FMR is set on the federal level, but the housing authority doesn't necessarily need to go by that when setting the rents they'll approve within their local market. As long as the rents that they'll approve, or rather offer to landlords participating in the program, fall within 90% to 110% of the amount that HUD sets, the housing authority is within compliance. What a housing authority sets as the max rent they will pay within a given area, which falls between 90 and 110% of the HUD FMR, is what's referred to as that housing authority's payment standard. Some housing authorities will set a payment standard for the entire area that they oversee, while other housing authorities will use what's called small area payment standards, or small area FMRs, where they take a look at each respective zip code within their municipality and set different payment standards for each. For example, Jacksonville, Florida is a market that does this, meaning they use a different percentage of the HUD FMR to determine the payment standard in each zip code that their housing authority oversees. Conversely, a market like Baton Rouge will use a single payment standard across the board and will determine what they consider rent reasonableness for a given property based on the census tract, which is in effect based on comparables. So in addition to guidelines on FMR and underlying payment standards that the housing authority sets, housing authorities will follow certain guidelines when it comes to safety and subsequently inspections. When you're a landlord investing through Section 8, you're purchasing a property and renting it out like you otherwise would be, but you're entering into a contract with the government, and part of that agreement is that they will be doing annual inspections on your property, as well as inspections before any Section 8 tenant moves in. These inspections have stringent guidelines that are set by HUD and can include additional guidelines added on top of the HUD guidelines set by the housing authority for things that are specific to their market. These guidelines are around areas of safety, of quality. For example, common guideline is whether or not the windows open and close properly, whether or not all the locks in the home work, whether or not there are light bulbs in all the light fixtures, if the electrical outlets are grounded or GFCI compliant if near water, if there's any problems with the floors or the walls. Section 8 will be checking for all of these things. As a landlord, you will be able to view the exact things that the housing authority is checking for on the housing authority's website. And if for any reason you can't find it, they must provide it to you. So in terms of how the program actually works in action, you have a tenant who we'll refer to as a voucher holder. And that is because they quite literally hold a voucher that's awarded to them by the public housing authority. And the way that that process works is low-income families, elderly or disabled, or anyone else who would otherwise qualify, apply for Section 8 assistance and are generally put on a wait list with the local housing authority. Virtually every housing authority in the United States has a wait list. There's a massive and growing demand for low-income families to receive assistance. After they're on that wait list, they're approved based on the amount of income that they have and the amount of people that will be living in the home. That voucher approval will approve them for a specific bedroom count. And that bedroom count is based on how many people will be living there. And that person will be assigned a caseworker who will help them along the way, navigate the program, find housing, and ensure that they remain eligible for the program and are following the program rules. The voucher holder can take that voucher and use it on any normal property where the owner of the property is willing to participate in the Housing Choice Voucher Program. For the investor renting out their property, participating in the Housing Choice Voucher Program is relatively straightforward. As long as you keep your property in a condition that meets the HUD guidelines so that it'll pass inspection. Accepting a voucher is a matter of completing some paperwork, which we'll cover in depth. But the dynamics of how you would go about renting a property, having the tenant sign a lease, give a security deposit, are virtually the same as they otherwise would be. The amount that the government covers can vary and is determined by a calculation based on the amount of income that the voucher holder is bringing in. Generally speaking, a voucher holder will not contribute more than 30% of their total income towards the rent. So you'll have instances where the US government is covering the vast majority of the rent that you're receiving if the voucher holder doesn't make a lot of money, which they don't, otherwise they wouldn't be on the program to begin with. So in most cases, the voucher holder is only paying a few $100s at most, and sometimes they're paying less than $100 or nothing. So one of the main benefits to participating as a landlord is just that. You are getting guaranteed rent, or a majority of your rent is guaranteed by the US government. So if your tenant loses their job or they're otherwise unable to pay, you will still receive your rent. Additionally, when done correctly, that rent can be 10 to 30% higher than you otherwise would have been able to achieve in the private pay market. Emphasis on when done correctly, because it isn't always the case. If you follow the strategies outlined in these modules, you should have no problem achieving that. So in addition to the guaranteed rent, that in a lot of cases is higher than the private pay market, you also have tenants that are less likely to move, and the average time that a tenant will stay in a property is significantly higher than tenants in the private pay market. This means less turnover, less vacancy, and less lost money as a result. Additionally, you have leverage over the tenant that you otherwise may not have, because if they break any of the program rules, they risk losing their voucher. And for a lot of people, getting approved for a Section 8 voucher is like hitting the lottery. So if a tenant starts to act up, you as a landlord can go to their caseworker and report them. They know that, you know that, which means it's actually less likely for them to trash your property or cause you a problem than a private pay tenant would, despite what many people think about the tenants on Section 8. So as a landlord, if you have a property ready to rent, you'll market the property in some specific ways to attract high quality tenants, which we'll cover. You'll make it clear that you'll accept Section 8 vouchers. Prospective tenants will fill out applications like they otherwise would. You'll go through a rigid screening process, which we will cover in depth. Select a tenant, register with the local housing authority, which is just some simple paperwork that you need to submit. Once the tenant moves in, you'll start to receive your payment from the government, usually around 60 days later. This can vary, really depends on how long it takes for the housing authority to get everything in order and set up. But irrespective of how long it takes, the housing authority will back pay the amount that they owe you from the day that the tenant moves in. So from a high level, that's the entire program. Obviously, there's a lot more that goes into being successful, which is exactly what the modules in the course will break down in detail. Strategies on how to select the right market, how to select the best areas within the market, how to build out a world-class team, how to find the best deals both on market and off market, how to land those deals at the best price possible, how to finance those deals, including how to acquire properties with using none of your own money, how to get everything ready, rent to quality tenants, how to negotiate and achieve those rents that are higher than the private pay market, and ensure that the housing authority isn't undercutting you, cutting into your cash flow, and how to take all that and really scale and grow your business is what we'll cover in depth, so you can take this basic understanding and turn it into a real strategy that'll maximize your cash flow and use Section 8 investing as a vehicle to achieve true financial freedom. So with that, I'll see you on the next one.